I want to start all the way back. I want to take you all the way back to when you started studying in Stuttgart. Is that how you say it?
Stuttgart, yeah, yeah.
And I haven't really heard you talk about this. I was preparing myself to the interview, and nobody
Uh-huh.
seems to know about this part of you that I think it's very important. I don't know if you can maybe talk a little bit about why Germany and what were you doing there?
Germany was when I was a young kid. My cousin was taking German in high school. My cousins are several years older than me, and they were kind of my big sisters. And I'm like, what is this? And she's like, it's German. I'm taking a German class. And I was like, well, that's weird. And because I was 10 years old, and I'm like, why would you want to learn a foreign language? I live in a hick town in Oregon. Um, and it kind of put it in the back of my head. And so when I was in college, I wanted to be the first person in my family to get a Bachelor of Arts
Oh,
degree. Everyone in the family are business oriented. They had BS, Bachelor of Science, and in order to do that, you had to take art history and a language. And I thought, well, German, because my cousin took it, and Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, Schubert, Schumann, all these amazing composers were German speaking, whether they were Austrian or German. Uh, and it just kind of made sense. Like, how come all this amazing music came out of Vienna? The Austrian, back when Mozart and Beethoven and those guys were all living there. And so that's kind of like, that's it. Just really because all these amazing composers
oh,
spoke German, and as it went on, a couple of years into my college, I heard about an exchange program. My state of Oregon, where I grew up, and I went to University of Oregon as an undergrad, they had an exchange program with the state of Baden-Württemberg, which is in South Germany. And of the cities that I had a choice to go to, Stuttgart was the biggest. And since I grew up in a hick town, a small town of 30,000 people, I really wanted the city life. I mean, later I went to grad school in New York City, and I was there 20 years, and I've been in LA 20 years. So I'm a total city dweller now. But when I was, 18, 19 years old, I just wanted to get out and be in a city. And Stuttgart had a very good opera.
oh, cool.
And there was a lot of cool cultural things there. So it turned out to be a really amazing year. And I studied classical guitar with a guy named Harold Volt,
Hmm.
who was a student of a guy named Carl Scheidt, who taught one of my heroes, Ralph Towner, who's a great classical guitarist, jazz pianist, improvises on classical guitar. He's also from a musical group called Oregon.
Oh,
And yeah, I actually got to meet him because he was classmates with my supervisor at University of Oregon, a guy named Ed Kammerer. And he's like, yeah, I went to school with Ralph. He's from Chehalis, Washington. He went to Oregon. And so that was pretty amazing. I went backstage and met Ralph at the Brit Festival, where years later, I ended up playing with the orchestra a couple of gigs. And he invited me, said, hey, if you're in Seattle, swing by. So I went to his house in Seattle and hung out. He's just a really, really down to earth, nice guy that happens to be a genius, so it's kind of amazing. So there's all these kind of interconnections, and anyway, I ended up, having an affinity for Europe, and I loved when I finally got back over there. I could, spruce my German up,
all right.
and speak on. Yeah, you probably remember me speaking German on stage and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember. Actually, in the Stuttgart, that's been one of my favorite helmet shows that I've attended.
Yeah. Cool.
That was amazing, and people love you there, man. I remember.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Germans, they love music. I mean, the crowds there are always amazing and intense, and it's really interesting that just like Berlin to Stuttgart to Munich. We played all these towns. Like, I mean, God, I want to think Langenfeld, Frankfurt is amazing, Cologne is amazing. We just have a great following there, and we played Heidelberg last year,